As we know, planned gifts are an incredible way for donors to leave a really meaningful contribution after they pass. And even in normal times, if you can call it that, it can be a tough topic to address and cover and move forward with. So we want to give some of the high points and talk a little bit about how we suggest potential handling that topic in today's times. So next slide, please, Trish. So, I want to start with why do planned gifts matter? We know that they provide critical future revenue streams. They provide donors with a tremendous opportunity for really, really meaningful impact. They're at the top of the giving pyramid, right along with signature gifts. It's typically the largest and most significant gift that a donor will ever make. But unfortunately, they're often overlooked. You've heard us talk before, and it's no secret that we are in the middle of a great wealth transfer. Baby boomers, the generation between 1944 and 1964 birth, are expected to transfer $30 trillion of wealth to younger generations over the next several years. And I know you've heard it before, but that is obviously a massive, massive wealth transfer and something that cannot be ignored from the charitable giving perspective. Next slide, please. We know that future growth is expected. The population is aging, the population is growing. We have a more educated donor base, and there are more and more people who don't have children to pass their wealth on. So it is an opportunity to engage in conversations with these people. We also know that more than half of American adults do not have a will. But we also know that 70 to 80% of Americans donate, and only 5% have a charitable estate plan, and less than 10% over the age of 50 have a charitable estate plan. So again, opportunity if we send important messaging and educate in the proper way to tap into these opportunities to help give them a meaningful opportunity to do something significant. But why is it so challenging to get these messages out to our constituencies? Well, first of all, we know it's difficult to measure the effectiveness because the response rates are low. It's a very long consideration timeline for donors. We know that we can't just have 2 or 3 conversations most of the time about this. We know that it's a several years long process oftentimes. Up to 40 years takes to decide that type of thing. Donor decision making is difficult to track, and we know that it is a lot more complex process to engage donors in thinking about this. So we have to think about several different parts of the emotional psyche when we're marketing to get people to consider a planned gift. And at the end of the day, we're always in need of cash right now. So we can easily lose focus on planned gifts if we don't have a consistent focused plan. So I'm going to cover just, again, some very, very high points on what we believe are keys to making sure that you're addressing planned giving in your programs. First and foremost, building awareness. Like we say, it's really about the marketing of the program. If you can include information about the fact that you have a planned giving program, please consider leaving our organization in your will and estate plans. Anywhere you can put that on your email subject, on your email signature line, business cards, letterheads, mailers, anywhere you can put it, making sure that it is bubbling up to people's minds. Building that awareness is the first step. Generating leads and finding out how to get these people thinking about it, offering opportunities for lasting gifts. Endowments in particular is a topic that people have brought up during this time, correct? We know that those organizations who have a strong, solid endowment right now are faring much better through the crisis that we're experiencing. So much of what we'll be talking about at our Planned Gifts Academy will be how do we incorporate that process into planned gifts? How do we have the conversation of endowments and growing endowments as it relates to planned gifts? So definitely an opportunity for us to make sure that we're having that lasting impact and preparing our organizations for any potential future crises that may arise. Inform, educate, and inspire. You know, by having stories, whether it's through a newsletter, a video, email, inviting people, those important touch points, inviting your current donors to plan gift seminars, linking them to financial partners who definitely believe in your nonprofit. Those are all important ways to educate beyond the awareness and help start with that inspiration process. Next slide. And this one should be no shocker to us in this realm, but cultivating the relationship, you know, really learning about the connections between your donors and your organization. I probably experienced one of my most incredible planned gift experiences when I received a phone call from an attorney about a woman who had passed away 2 years previous that we did not even know had been in her will. And she had the most amazing story. If we had been able to know that story in advance and be able to understand it, but her father had been a country doctor out in the middle of nowhere and somehow had a connection to the health system I was working for. And because she was the only child and it was his legacy, she wanted to leave it for healthcare. And it was just a really, really touching story. Her father had actually passed away at the age of 40 and walked away from his practice and left it. And it was like a museum. But you know, information like that about a connection to your organization, those stories, like we always say, are so important. So it is important to have you know, all of the awareness and inspiration going on, but getting to know your current donors, like we say, beyond the immediate today, and getting to know their connections and their whys is so important. So inviting them to things and having social media promotions, updating them on what you're doing, all of those things are wonderful tools to cultivate the relationship and go further. And lastly, as we know, if we don't ask, it's oftentimes not going to happen. And an ask for a planned gift can be a very, very daunting task. But I think if we put all of these things together, where we are having the awareness, where we are helping with stories and inspiration, and we are knowing our donors and knowing their desires, having the suggestions with a face-to-face ask, having them request information on replies, all of these things can lead us to that path where they're feeling ready to make that commitment, and then the idea then becomes theirs to really do something that has a lasting impact. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Jim to speak a little bit to planned giving in today's world.
Great, thanks, Marty, very much. I do want to welcome Steve Weekland to the group. Steve, the kind of the newest member of our Pride Client Network, and Steve, glad to have you with us. Good to see you, and really pleased you're with us. So,
thanks, Jim. I appreciate it.
Bet. You know, I think as Marty says, I think we have to, you know, kind of start this process and this discussion in a larger way about the fact that the psychology of planned giving is different than current cash. You know, we're generally, not always, but generally talking about gifts of assets rather than income, and people feel differently about their assets, the things they've worked to accumulate, rather than how they divide up their paycheck every month or every year. So we know the psychology of this is different. A lot of this information came from a recent, pretty extensive piece by Russell James, who's a planned gifts guru, and really talking about how planned giving can work and how we handle it and treat it during the pandemic. Talks about and quoted Dr. Jen Shang, who's a philanthropic psychologist, who's done some study, and there's certainly a lot more data and research being done right now as far as the psychology of giving and what that looks like. But Dr. Shang talks about giving, and particularly making reference to planned giving, talking about providing people a sense of autonomy, control over their lives, and certainly their financial resources. connectedness. Those of us in fundraising, we preach that all the time as far as connecting people, and which is the quality and the quantity of our relationships. And then also competence. How effective are we in the things that we do? And that certainly can relate to estate planning and financial planning as well. Next slide, please. Part of this was a survey that was done by MarketSmart, a research firm. Pre-COVID, they do this every year. 32% of a donor pool expressed interest in legacy giving in addition to their cash giving. And of that group, the 6.5% of that group had included charity in the will. Not bad. In the last 30 days, they ran that same survey. 34.5% expressed interest in legacy giving, and of that group, but only 4% had included charity in their will. The conclusion they drew from this was that there's more interest and awareness from our more marginal supporters. We're getting more people interested in legacy giving who have perhaps not done that in the past. So we do have some opportunity, not to be morbid about it, but with all the daily figures and information about death and people getting sick and prominent people passing, that sort of thing, it has certainly changed the awareness. Next slide, please. But however, with that, they talked about the importance of, in our messaging, not leading with death. One of the main reasons that people don't want to talk about planned giving at any time, just because they don't want to think about the fact that we're going to die and not be here to spend all our money. And it sort of creates an avoidance behavior that people exhibit and push that message back. So we shouldn't really talk about and lead with the fact we understand that legacy giving, planned giving, estate planning involves death and transference of our resources, but it shouldn't lead with that message. Talked about the importance, and one of the key things being the estate planning advisor mentioning just charitable options when in the planning process. It's interesting, and if you talk to a lot of planned giving or a lot of estate planning attorneys and other professionals, they will say that charitable giving is not always highly emphasized in their formal education. And as a result, don't really spend a lot of time talking about it necessarily with their clients. One of the things that we hope we can do is raise that awareness with the estate planning and financial planning professionals to at least ask the question and offer possibilities as far as options when people are saying, have you thought anything about charity within your will, within your estate plan? And that doesn't require a lot of technical necessarily expertise, but just the fact that we like to bring that up and make some type of we get people to encourage their clients to do that. They talked about very much about the important positive message that we want to deliver with legacy gifts. And the first is that this isn't just for the ultra wealthy. People like me do make legacy gifts. People do that, and if somebody else that I know, respect, can do that, well, I hadn't thought about that, but I guess I could do that too. And that speaks to the importance of recognition, of recognizing people as soon as they let us know that they've done something within their estate plan. Certainly being part of something that will last. Having that history and reputation of the organization, something that's very solid in the community, is important. And the fact that we know that we have to demonstrate that we're going to be good stewards of their resources over the long haul is also very, very important. But our reputation in the community and the fact that we're going to be around for a long period of time as an organization allows people to maintain that connection into the future. And the other part of it I thought was interesting. They talked about the importance that depending on what people support, it helps perpetuate their values, whether it's healthcare or education or other social causes or the arts or whatever it may be, that people's legacy gifts, more than anything, represent their values. And they say that that's even more of a driver for planned gifts necessarily than cash gifts. Cash gifts are influenced by a number of different things with the person who asks and the position of the community. But they say planned giving really has much more to do with people's values. If they're going to support something with their assets, and we have to talk about the work that we do and our values as organizations to help make that connection with those donors and those prospective donors. So becomes a key there. And the last slide, please. Keys to success. We talk about this in all aspects of fundraising, and it certainly is no exception here. Share stories. Plan giving, estate planning. Gee, that sounds kind of technical. I don't know if I want to get involved in all that with my estate and what that means. But when you hear about a story that an individual, what they've done with their estate and how they've made a provision for a nonprofit within their estate plan, we're able to publicize that. They talk about why. They talk about the importance of the organization, the community. That resonates. That's the power of one that we know that comes from stories and that type of communication. The other thing is we always want to talk about options on different types of estate gift vehicles. We know there are many organizations who will focus in on one aspect or another. Well, we really want to promote charitable gift annuities because that's really a good deal. Well, it's not necessarily the best vehicle for every single estate planning donor, potential donor. Particularly right now, we just saw we've gotten a downgrade in rates on the payouts for charitable gift annuities. So they may not be quite as attractive for new ones for a donor for some period of time, particularly if we're going to be in a period of time of extremely low interest rates, which we are likely to be. So we're not trying to promote specific vehicles. We're trying to promote the entire idea and world of estate planning, and within that world of estate planning, the opportunity to do something special for the community, something that may certainly benefit the heirs as far as the overall estate plan is concerned, and a specific charity and that type of I think a comprehensive approach rather than trying to sell a certain thing, life insurance or annuities or whatever it may be. And we always want to be in a position to offer assistance. That's why we have encourage a planned gifts or an estate planning committee or team that we have available to us with some of the professionals that are maybe available in a given community or in a given area. Because people are confused about what to do and how to do it. And if we can help direct them to the right professional and give them that type of an assistance to get them into the right hands, so that helps them, it helps us. They know that we're a resource in this area, and we want to be able to promote that kind of communication and that level of support. So just some things as far as overall, as far as planned gifts, as Marty said, we'll that overview is just that. We'll be getting into great depth on all of these areas, including endowment, at the Planned Gifts Academy in July, and then also covering information in depth as we do committee orientations for the Planned Gifts Committee at our various clients. So a couple of many opportunities to get into more depth and into the detail as far as how this can work, and because it can be a significant part of your program. Long term, it's really where the money is. It just takes some organization and patience to realize that return on the investment. So happy to take any questions, and with that, turn it back to Marty.
Thanks, Jim. I got excited. I thought there was a question, but it was Trish reminding you all where to put your questions in that top right-hand corner, just in case. But moving on, we're going to have the first sample is going to be just one of our Heritage Society brochure samples. Just we want to include it because we want to make sure to send that out with this group since that was the topic for today. But I think having something, clearly this one does a really nice job of having information about the hospital that this is for, using imagery, having little breakouts, bold bullets, things just that pop out. But really it explains the opportunity to do something. And then you have in a perforated piece that can be sent back asking for more information and capturing their information so that you can contact them. So, we've got all sorts of samples in this realm, as you know, but wanted to make sure to include one that we thought you'd enjoy referencing for this topic today. So Again, it's in times of crisis that our donors need us the most. They look to us for leadership, empathy, humanity, and we know that the right messaging can continue to reaffirm the relationship that we have with our donors. So cannot say enough about the incredible work that each of you are doing. Each week, we really look forward to highlighting your samples and highlighting the work that you're doing. Really hoping that you feel good about it and sharing it with others, that you realize, wow, how far we've come and how much we continue to do as we navigate the day-to-day, weeks and months ahead, getting back to a little bit of a sense of normalcy. So first, I want to hand it over to Patty. We have several samples that she's going to highlight. One of them I really liked was a collaboration in a community for a day of giving that sense of urgency. And then a couple of other great stories as well, and a virtual event sample. So Patty, over to you.
Thank you, Marty. And just one comment on planned gifts. Those of you who know the Pride team well know how much we love planned gifts, because, and I think one of the benefits that I'm looking at these, thinking of who else on today, and there's several of us who are in our 4th decade of fundraising. And when you have been in fundraising, and Jim's looking up, he's like, what, me? He's in his 5th, but we're not going to talk about that. But there are many of us, and I'm not going to name Ken Coffey either, who've been doing this for a really long time. And we do know, and because we've been working with some of the same clients for years and literally decades now, that we see those that have really made a focus on planned gifts. And it's always that thing, even as a director, it was easy for me to push that off to the side and say, well, I have a campaign, I've got to raise the money right now, got to get this done. But there's so many more things we can do now. And I think a lot of our Planned Gift Academy, where our programs now are showing how we can streamline and really pick at the important things for planned gifts, because we do have this huge opportunity. So, so y'all know that we are huge proponents of that process, because we have seen the clients who've done that have had so much more money than they've raised in some of the others. And so, so anyway, that's just my little side on that we love planned gifts. So, as Marty mentioned, this was just a great sample, this hospital in Pennsylvania, a great collaborative effort. And we know that during COVID, everyone has seemed to be nicer and collaborative and supportive. And we're all in this together, knowing, it's just been this crazy epidemic, and no one knows what's going to happen next, and next year it's going to fall. But I think we're seeing so much collaborativeness amongst our clients, and how they have the entire community and what they're doing. And the positive thing from those of you who are, almost many of you are with hospices or hospitals, is that healthcare is at the forefront right now. And we see that as an opportunity, and it's a huge opportunity moving forward in fundraising, because we're getting the attention that we've never gotten before, not just in planned gifts, but with cash. And so while collaboration is incredibly important, at the same time, we're still competitive with all our neighbor charities and our local, regional, and national charities. And so we do love the collaborativeness and what's been happening, but we also want to come out on top, because we know that it's going to be very competitive moving into the fall. So do love that sample, though, because they've done a great job with that. The next one, and probably several of you have seen these, is that, people who are getting their stimulus checks, we're seeing around the country, there are more and more people who are donating those back to their favorite charity. And so if you're not in that space yet, would encourage you to think about that. If you know someone, or if you're making an ask, or if someone would donate that is a great story to tell. Whether it's an employee or just someone or whether whoever that a board member that you can prevail upon to do that. That is very powerful, because other people, it's like playing gifts. They go, oh, I could do that. I didn't think about that. But we're seeing more and more of those. And so if you're having the stimulus checks, donations, get that out there, because there's people go, oh, I could do that as well. So the next one, this was kind of circling back to our topic last week about the virtual events. This is the Belief Bash that is in about its 4th or 5th year, but they're doing that virtually this year. And we just thought you guys might like to see that sample of what they're doing. It's a very 900-bed hospital, and the Bash is usually more focused on their children's hospital, but they've done a good job, I think, of messaging that. It is their largest fundraiser of the year, as many of you have had to no longer have your live largest fundraiser of the year. And I think they've done a good job of transitioning that into a more of a hybrid type virtual event. So those are some of the samples that we like, that of people who are not on today. But we also want to hear from many of you who have some really good things to share as well. So.
Sorry about that, my delay. I was trying to get off of mute. I saw that there was, I thought, a question in the chat box, but it was actually a comment from Jeannie in California. Jeannie, thank you for sharing that with us. She said that they received their first stimulus check donation last week. So it is definitely happening elsewhere. Jeannie, did you want to add anything?
Just that I was really excited about it.
No, and curious, was this an ask, or was this just a gift that came out of nowhere? Did you cultivate that gift specifically in that way?
No, it came in for angel babies. We're in the middle of our 40K in 40 days for angel babies, and I called to find out what prompted the gift, because it was, I don't know, it looked strange. It was like drawn on one person's account, but there was a weird note with it. I'm like, what is this? So I called, and it was the daughter of the donor, and the donor is actually in assisted living. And she's like, she didn't need her check, didn't want it, wanted it to donate to their charity, and Angel Babies was their favorite.
That is so exciting. Well, I think because you've kept that messaging going forward and you're 40, that inspired that, but that's so wonderful to remember that, those options are available for people. So thank you for sharing, Jeannie. Very exciting.
Thanks.
Next, I'd like to call on Jane Snipes with the Whitfield Healthcare Foundation. Jane, are you there?
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Great. Jane, if you could share, again, we've got a couple of things. One, we've got your sample, but I know Jim mentioned it also earlier that you all had a very successful and productive meeting online. And as we're encouraging more and more people, we don't know how long people might not be comfortable meeting face to face, especially in a large group with 40 people. So just as we continue to encourage people to utilize the online meeting format, if anything you could speak to about, who presented, how it was productive, what it meant to your community, would be really helpful for the group as well. So kind of two pieces for you today, Jane.
Okay, great. So do you want me to start with the meeting? Is that, or did you want to think about it Thursday? I'm sorry, I was having to respond to an email.
That's okay, either one. I'm giving you the floor to address both for us.
Okay, great, yeah. So yeah, yesterday's meeting was, our board is very large. We have 60 trustees. So trying to think about having all of them on a virtual meeting was, we weren't sure if we were going to be eligible for a Saturday Night Live skit when it was all over, or, it was going to be a success. But, remarkably, even a lot of our people who, are more retired, stay-at-home people, we had some of them on. And, a lot of our folks were able to join us, and I feel like they were sort of thirsty for information just to hear from us. And so we allowed our infectious disease physician to be on the call to answer questions about COVID-19, as well as our COO, Sandy McKenzie. They did a really good job just updating our committee, just our committees about, the activities, how many folks were in the hospital, how many, people wanted to know what was your highest number that you had in the hospital. People were just curious about that information, and so they were able to tell what we were doing from a staffing standpoint, and precaution, safety and precaution. They addressed a lot of the concerns about PPE and how that had been managed throughout this time, and so that was very helpful for them to hear that. And then we gave them an update on our activities, so that they could get that sense that things continue, our needs continue here at the hospital, our projects continue, and our fundraising does. And so just having that message, I feel like it gave them that kind of confidence as we move forward, because in the summer months we cut back on our meetings, and this was just a good opportunity for us to get the entire board together and message with them and let them know that we're planning for the future. We put out, save the dates for them, gave them examples of what have been in news releases, social media that we've done recently. And so I feel like it was just a positive all the way around. We've had a very key figure here pass away that was a donor or benefactor to the hospital. And so we had one of our board members wanted to talk about that and his impact. And so it really was, it was a good meeting. It was informative, but it was also a real feel-good meeting where we felt that we gave them the information that they really were probably seeking. Our hospital's taken, our marketing department here has taken a very kind of cautious approach, I guess I would say, to messaging that those daily updates or information. They have chosen this time to really focus on other things happening at the hospital, like new providers, new services. We recently opened our Cancer Institute, so they have actually done a lot of physician features and those kind of things, almost in lieu of those updates on COVID. So giving them that information was, I feel like, a good thing, because we haven't had an onslaught of that local information in our local media.
That's wonderful.
And then,
great segue into Think About It Thursday. Share a little bit about that with us. But actually, really quickly, before you do, I just wanted to note, I know that a couple of your meeting attendees did utilize a little training session that we offered to make sure they were comfortable. So just wanted to mention that to everyone. If you feel like you've got people maybe older, not super comfortable on a virtual meeting, we always offer that. So I'm really glad that you had a productive meeting, and happy to always offer that to all of our clients to make sure that you can utilize that. So, but how about Think About It Thursday? Tell us a little about that.
Okay, this is just one of our weekly, we do a little blurb on Thursdays. It's just a very short communications piece, but we always include a quote that's meaningful at the time. We might be featuring a donor. We do a lot of different kinds of features, but this time we wanted to honor our nurses who are members of the foundation. So we had a fun little social distancing picture with some of them outside in our outdoor plaza, and just highlighted their impact. We used this theme of being game changers. There was a piece of art that appeared in publication that we thought was really neat, showing the nurse as a superhero, and so we featured that as well, and just talked about our nurses being game changers for us. And we also highlighted them the last week on social media, and we're continuing that on as well, just to give that positive communications out, provide that for the community.
Very nice. I like that, game changers. Superheroes and game changers. Great messaging. Thank you, Jane. Next, I would like to call on Jessica with Tidelands Health in South Carolina. Jessica, we've got a couple of samples on the screen from you. I know that there was one, this first one I think is a tribute gift, and then you've also got a major gift. If you could share a little bit about those with us.
Yeah, so this was a group of friends that did their own fundraising effort, and they raised a little over $1,000, and they purchased Amazon gift cards for some of our nursing staff. And so that was just another example of one of the many in-kind donations that we've received over the past, the past few weeks. We've received many things, from gift cards to, Mary Kay, lotions, Dr. Scholl's foot insoles. So this was just one of many, but they actually held their own fundraiser to do that for our employees. And this is actually a donation we received last week. It's $25,000 from the Shapers. They have a home here in the Pawleys Island area, a second home. They're originally from the Atlanta area. And they are friends with our chief medical staff officer. And that's kind of how the relationship started. and they've never donated to Tadlin's Health before. However, they have donated to other hospital systems in the Atlanta area, and they reached out to us and wanted to make a significant impact. It was the first virtual meeting I've ever had with donors. Our CEO was included in that meeting, and it went very well and very smooth. Mr. Shaper is the CEO of a large software company. So he and our CEO kind of hit it off, and just talked about what our needs were, and we got the $25,000 last week. And so this is just some of the recognition. We shared that on Facebook. I did talk to the donor about sharing that with the community in hopes that that would motivate others to give. And so far it has. We just sent out a direct mail campaign, and we're getting some return on that. And so far our Helpers Fund has a little over $51,000 that's been raised.
That is so exciting. I love it. I mean, you've got a new donor acquisition through this. You did a virtual meeting. It's a major gift. I mean, kudos. Great work. Keep it up. And nicely capturing that messaging to inspire others. I love it. Next, I'm going to hand it over to Kelly Brooks with Beauregard Health System in Louisiana. Kelly, we really like what you did here with some just immediate donor recognition. If you could tell us a little bit about this and how your campaign has shaped out this past week.
So yeah, we just wanted to, thank our donors for their gifts to our emergency assistance fund. And we just posted on our social media platforms, and we decided to not wait to go ahead and post so that we could, immediately recognize those that have donated, and decided to put at the bottom just as of like the date, so that when we receive more donations, that we could repost it, and we didn't want to leave anybody out. So we're able to put a call to action at the top of the post to give people an opportunity to give, just another message to give as well. So we've reposted this several times as we've had additional donors, and this last week we got a $5,000 gift, which put us over our goal of $11,000. So we've been very pleased.
Keep up the great work. I love that. I think it just shows that you are not going to wait on the perfect moment. I think so often we can be a little bit paralyzed by taking action on any plethora of things because we think, oh, we just have to have everything ready and right. But by putting that little as of date, you have the confidence to just go ahead and start recognizing people. And that's, success breeds success. And so happy to hear that you have overachieved your initial goal. So great work, and great to see you on the webcam today.
I got a camera.
I love it. Last but not least, I'd like to ask Megan Swigert with Frederick Health in Frederick, Maryland, to tell us a little bit about this Why I Give Wednesday feature. Megan.
Sure. So every Wednesday, we have been posting a Why I Give. And it's one of our development council volunteers is how we're starting with. And this gentleman owns a funeral home in Frederick where we live, and has been the chair of our committee for many years. He has a goal to hit a certain number, which is it's going to be challenging. So he'll stay on for a long time, but we've gotten great response. We try to feature somebody. Right now we're featuring chairs of our committees, and then I think we've done all of them, so now we're going back to our committee members. And we're asking for more candid photos rather than necessarily the headshot, so it looks a little bit more approachable to our followers, especially since our following has increased tremendously during the COVID with all of our posts that we've done. We quadrupled our Facebook followers, so that's been great. So we're a little bit more careful and cautious about what we're sharing now.
Great work. I like that. I think it just, you're engaging your top volunteers through this process and inspiring, and, it just gives you a great idea to continue to keep that messaging going out there. So thank you for sharing that. Well, we are coming to the end. You know, as I was looking this week, you know, doing research, I came across something that just hit me, and it was so simple yet so profound. And it said, caring is the most important calling. And, you know, I think that remembering that the work that we do helps people show that they care in our communities, and give them opportunities to do something to support their communities that they love and your organizations that they love. Just was kind of a great fitting end to the week for me. I want to just encourage everyone to keep up the amazing work that you're doing.